My non-physical journeys weren't all rainbows and butterflies. In my last two entries, I shared the general outline of my ayahuasca journeys, the hallmarks of the path, and the insights I gained. Not every experience was blissful pleasure, though. There was one that was quite scary. I got into trouble and needed my wife to bail me out. What happened convinced me of the eternal relationship she and I share. Now, there's no such thing as evil in the universe, but there are thoughts that have been thought which create experience of a darkness that can be compelling. On Mother's Day, I had a run-in with such an experience. I had a particularly powerful dose of ayahuasca that day, and my perception abruptly shifted to where all physical reality was now experienced by my physical senses as a vast web of molecular material. I mean, I could see quilt and table and lamp, but they bled together as though there was no space separation between them. I bypassed the diagnostic period I described in my last blog entry and went immediately far into non-physical. It happened so fast, I was disoriented, and in the disorientation, I became afraid. Now, popular movies are our modern-day lore. They offer signposts pointing to the veracity of non-physical reality. For example, in Dune, we learn fear is the mind killer. In Star Wars, when Yoda and Luke come upon a tree imbued with the Force, Yoda tells Luke he has to go in that tree. Luke asks, "What's in there?" And Yoda says, "Only what you take with you." These accounts, in my opinion, represented in film, are exact descriptions of non-physical. If you take fear into that realm, fear is what you're going to encounter at a magnitude that is literally debilitating. So here I was in an extremely deep dive in non-physical. I was fearful, and I began experiencing a realm I was uncomfortable with. I feared I wasn't going to be able to return to ordinary consciousness, and so I groped for my phone. Now, if you watch my previous blog entries, you'll know that I said back then that I could easily come out of these experiences at any time, but this time, I was so immersed in my fear thought that I forgot that essential point. I was able to reach for my phone and make out the interface, dial my wife on speaker, and tell her that I needed her help right away. She was just finishing up Mother's Day with her daughter, I think, and so the timing was perfect. When she arrived, I was in a very non-physically scary place. I can't describe what I felt, only that there was an intense fear surrounding me. Bridget sat down beside me on the bed, caressing my head and telling me everything was going to be okay. And then something extraordinary happened. My wife had started talking in these soothing tones I had never heard her use before. Like me, she believes in the non-physical realm, and I could tell she had tapped into her own version of that realm. For some reason, she began talking about fear, scarcity, lack consciousness, and money consciousness. She must have perceived that that was the source of my fear-induced panic. And indeed, she struck a nerve, because what happened next was like a page from The Exorcist. From deep within me, deeper than I had felt up to now, a part of me emerged to the surface of my conscious awareness. It was pitch black, bloody rage. Bridget asked me what I was thinking because, as she later described it, my face took on this contorted appearance, kind of like a sneer. Right after she asked me, I felt my lips curl into a snarl, and I felt myself bare my teeth. My hands rigor mortised into claws, and I began to hiss and wail and claw at the air directly in front of me. Bridget didn't cower, but instead became more insistent, just like the fucking priest in The Exorcist. She began became more intense and more committed to the act of soothing me. Perry is well, and he's good, and he's generous, I remember her saying. This scarcity consciousness has no power over him. It was really quite a feat to see her do this and to see my reactions. And then she said, he is love and peace and joy. And with each statement, I felt myself get more and more intense. My snarls got louder, and I clawed and snapped at the air with my teeth more and more, so hard that my teeth were clacking out loud. Then, just like the evil entity in The Exorcist, I began snapping and clawing at Bridget, which was weird because I knew deep in me that my attempts to gouge out her neck with my teeth were more gestures of non-physical pain than a real attempt to do any harm to her. Of course, I don't think Bridget knew that, but she told me later that she knew this representation of me had no power over me or her. I got so intense in the next few moments, I wondered if I was going to float off the bed. And at that point, the room returned to ordinary consciousness. Objects took their place in a time-space reality, so the unified look was gone. But I wasn't out of the woods yet. The power of all that negativity flowing through me and out into my teeth and clawed fingers was overwhelming. And Bridget continued to remain beside me, offering soothing words of encouragement. And then, all of a sudden, I shot through that darkness like a plane through a storm. One moment it was pitch black, and the next I was free and open, and light had replaced what was a very, very dark cloud. I looked over at Bridget, and she looked like an angel. She was brilliant and glowing with light, and I involuntarily asked, "Are you an angel?" And that's when I saw the history running through many lifetimes that she and I shared. We had been through these kinds of experiences many times, with me on this end and she on the other, and vice versa. Bridget didn't know what to make of all that when I told her later. She was just glad I was okay, and she admonished me for taking too much ayahuasca that one time. It was an experience I will never forget. It was also an experience which gave a level of clarity which drives me with even more focus and commitment to my path and my passions. Today, as I said, I no longer explore non-physical existence through ayahuasca, not because of this negative journey, for there were many, many positive ones that followed. Instead, I rely on the expanded perception I've received and cultivated through these ayahuasca experiences, but also through meditation and reading. The lessons I've learned have convinced me how real non-physical is, and how any physical reality is formed and originates from this non-physical place. We are free, rambunctiously joyful, powerfully creative, eternal beings who have chosen to imbue a part of our essence, a part of our immense presence into physical bodies, in a physical framework we ongoingly create simply for the fun, the expansion, and the opportunity to express our total freedom as eternal beings. The universe responds to our expressions, assembling elements that eventually form into physical events and matter. Thus, our reality is created from deep within our eternal nature, via our thoughts and focus. From that perspective, there is nothing wrong here in physical reality, and nothing to fix. All is well, and everything is possible. All we perceive, in fact, all creation, arises from our conscious thoughts, which, when focused on, become infused with the powerful life energy that is what we are. This life energy that we are is the origin of all that is, including this planet we call home. That power, that life energy, that eternal, boundless, creative force is the force behind copiosis, and that is why copiosis becoming the dominant economic system on this planet is inevitable. I'm Perry Gruber, founder of Copiosis.